part of it is about finding self-compassion.
Okay.
You know, I had so much to feel bad about. I felt bad Dave died. I felt bad that I didn't diagnose coronary artery disease. It took me a while to get over that. When I convinced my family convinced me, I'm the only person in my family not a doctor. It's like, how could you diagnose it? I then felt bad that my mother's here. She gave up her life for a month to live with me. My closest friends were here. They all were flying out. I couldn't do client meetings. I was at work 4 hours a day, not 8 or 9. I felt terrible. And then I started thinking about what I would have done if I had known Dave and I had 11 years. Morning he died, we were on a trip, so we went on a hike. He hiked with the guys, I hiked with the women. Like, I thought so often about just taking back that hike, like, shouldn't I have walked with him? And what Adam said was, if you do not cut this out, your kids cannot recover because you cannot recover. And so I realized Dave and I had an incredible marriage, but we had fights. Spending time worrying about every fight we had, because why would we fight if we only had 11 years? That's not realistic. And it's not just the things that aren't our fault, it's the things that are. We have lots of examples in the book of people that had to recover from things that were their fault, but you have to be kind to yourself.
Give us an example of that.
There are
a lot of good examples. One of them is actually here. Tim Chambers. Got an email about a year ago from Tim's wife, Kim, and she said, I wanted you to know about my husband. And I clicked on a link, and there were these beautiful portraits. And I then found out he was legally blind. And if he's looking in your eye, he can't see your mouth. And he will physically memorize all the details of you in order to paint you. And when Tim got diagnosed with this condition at 30, he could have just said, all right, this is terrible. I chose the wrong profession. He had a physician who said, you better give up your calling and find another one. And instead, he said, look, I'm going to recognize that, I can't necessarily see the difference between purple and gray, but there's still things that I can do with this talent that I have. And one of the things that he did with it was he went and started teaching online art classes. And it was so inspiring to see that there were students in Australia waking up at 2 a.m. in order to take a course with him. And I think what that speaks to here is that when you're kind to yourself, when you accept your limitations, your mistakes, your challenges, you're more likely to not only bounce back, but sometimes bounce forward.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting idea from the book. You guys write about this. It's something that I had never heard of. That is, some people in the face of trauma will suffer deeply. PTSD, other kinds of serious ailments. Some people will bounce back. But tell us about bouncing forward. What does that mean? What does that look like when someone bounces forward?
So the basic idea is that when something tragic happens, there are positive changes in your life that come after it. And not saying the tragedy is good, right? Anybody who's gone through tragedy would give pretty much anything to undo it and be able to go back. But along with the sadness or the grief or whatever negative emotions accompany the bad experience are some improvement.